Hi everyone, this is Katie from Katie Loves Classic Books, and I'm here today with my belated March wrap-up. So, if you've watched my last two wrap-ups, you'll know that for a period of time, I just couldn't find the space to film my wrap-up, so I've been trying to go back and refilm, or film in the first place, the months I missed because I read some good books and I still want to tell you about them. So right now I'm going to do my March wrap up. So I read 3 books in March. Probably, the least amount of books I've read in a month this year, but I was reading a 4th book that month. It was very long, but I didn't finish it till April, so I will talk about that in my April wrap up. So let's get to the books. The first one I read in March was Far from the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy, and this was published in 1874. And this book is about a woman farmer named Bathsheba Everdeen, and her life becomes complicated by 3 men. One, a shepherd named Gabriel Oak, another, a neighboring farmer named Mr. Boldwood, and then the third, a Sergeant Troy. This book I gave 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and this was the 3rd Thomas Hardy book I've read, and I'm really enjoying reading his book so far, although this wasn't my favorite. I've heard such wonderful things about this one. I thought, this would be one of my more favorite novels of his, but I don't really feel that way, although I still really did enjoy it. It was maybe a little bit too dramatic for me at times. Now, I found so far with Hardy's novels that there is a lot of drama, but I don't know. There was something about it that kept me from completely loving it. In terms of an exploration of human relationships, I found it interesting because Bathsheba is faced with 3 different types of relationships. So you see kind of the different options. You see, lust and, what just a pure lustful relationship looks like that, possibly is rushed into too quickly. And especially in this period of time, feeling lust for someone has a lot more consequences than in today's world. You can tie yourself up into something long term that you don't want, only because at the moment you felt lust, and also kind of a relationship that maybe you could enter into because of maybe not guilt, but kind of maybe a sense of obligation, or seeing like, it could be secure, but you don't really have romantic feelings. So there's that type of relationship explored. And then kind of a good kind, like a very loyal, steady kind that has possibly been there all along and maybe isn't quite as passionate as the lustful relationship, but still seems to have the right kind of steady, loyal passion. So I found that very interesting. And also just about women's independence in general. Bathsheba is a woman farmer, which is unusual, and she, really doesn't need anyone to take care of her. She pretty much is okay. So being in a relationship, doesn't have as many benefits for her as for other women in her time period. So all of this is kind of put together and explored, all these different types: Bathsheba's own independence, and then her sexual feelings, and then maybe, the possibility that she could be more taken care of and secure, even though she doesn't necessarily need that, and then just have like a more loyal partner. So I found that all very interesting. I don't think I loved Bathsheba as much as I wanted to. She had moments where I liked her, and then moments where I kind of found her a little bit annoying, and some of her choices a little bit annoying. So she was okay for me. I think Gabriel Oak, the shepherd, was my favorite character in this. He's just so steady and loyal. How can you not admire him and root for him? What else? I love the pastoral setting. Hardy does that so well. There's always some, very beautiful passages throughout his books of really lovely descriptions of nature, and this was the same. There was, I think it was towards the beginning, this passage just talking about the stars at night. It was from Gabriel's point of view, and it was so beautiful. So you just find that in Hardy's writing, which I'm really loving. I love stuff like that. So that's really cool. Yeah, so I enjoyed this. It just wasn't my favorite of his books so far, but I do very much recommend this because it is quite good. And then this is kind of unusual for me, but after reading this, I watched the kind of recent 2015 movie version of this, and I really liked it. I may have liked that a little better than the book. They just did something that kind of added something I felt was lacking, which is unusual for me to say. I mean, this is a classic, and I hate saying that, and this in its own right, has a lot of merit. And usually, I will very often watch the movie versions of books I read just out of curiosity. A lot of the time, I'm like, they're probably not going to be good, but I'll watch them anyways. And a lot of the time, I don't. I'm not really a fan. But yeah, so I was actually very much a fan of the movie version of this, and recommend that at least if you don't feel like reading this book. That is at least worth checking out. But yeah, I do think this is still a good book. It's a lot of people's favorite of Hardy's novels. So if you're interested in Thomas Hardy, you like Victorian literature, it would be quite a good idea to pick this up. I will say, if you're wondering what is my favorite of Hardy's books that I've read so far, it's Tess of the D'Urbervilles. So besides Far from the Madding Crowd now, I've read Tess of the D'Urbervilles and Two on a Tower, both of which are really good. But Tess of the D'Urbervilles, I don't know, it just had an element to it that just really hits you and stays with you. I thought it was the saddest of his novels that I've read, but yeah, I just found that more complete emotionally somehow, so I recommend that. The second book I read in March was The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon, and this was published in 2003, and I gave this 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Part of me wonders if I should have given it 4, but I just feel like it kind of deserves 5. So I wouldn't have picked this up if it wasn't for my brother. He got this for me for my birthday, as he really loves both the novel and the play. I think he saw the play on Broadway. I think so, which is pretty cool. Anyway, so he insisted that I read this, and I'm really glad he gave this to me and kind of made me read it, because it was such a joy to read. So it's about a boy named Christopher who has, I believe, Asperger's syndrome. And one night his neighbor's dog is killed. And so he decides to write a book and solve the mystery. And it's about a lot more than the mystery of who killed the neighbor's dog. It's really just about Christopher and how he perceives the world and the different facets of his life and his personality, and also some of his complex family life. Yeah, and he was one of the most unique and wonderful narrators. I've read a book from the perspective of he was just so endearing, and the book was largely comedic. There were a lot of laugh out loud, funny moments, but yet with serious undertones, especially towards the end and dealing with some of his family issues, because those were pretty sad to read about, but yet the book still had a rather light tone that was just really such a joy to read. And yeah, I know this book got a lot of hype a while back, and I can see why. It's really worth a read. So if you're interested, even if you're maybe hesitant or not as drawn to it, like me, I still think it's it's worth it. So if you're looking for a book, you know, with a unique narrator, or that might make you a little sad but also make you laugh at the same time, I do recommend this. And final book that I completed in March was How Green Was My Valley by Richard Llewellyn. And this was published in 1939, and I gave this 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. And this was such a joy to read. I had heard that this was a couple people's favorite books, basically people that I've watched in the past on BookTube. And so that's why I was kind of drawn to pick this up, because the premise didn't sound necessarily that appealing to me. So it's about a man named Hugh Morgan, and he's looking back on his life in a Welsh mining community. And so knowing that, I was like, a book about mining, I don't know if that's too exciting. And while that is the community they live in, that's what a lot of them do to make their living, and it's kind of present in the background, it's really not necessarily about that. It's really like a nostalgic trip down memory lane. It's really about family and love, and that's why I loved this so much. Hugh's family, the Morgans, are just such wonderful people, and they were such wonderful characters to read about. And I feel like when I was reading this book, that I just lived with them for a while. And it was just truly delightful, and to read about all their little love stories and all their struggles and happinesses were just truly wonderful. And not everything ended happily, sometimes it could be a little frustrating, but it felt very realistic and full of life and full of love. And the setting was wonderful. It seemed kind of idyllic, but yet you kind of know that with the mining going on and the slag heaps building up, that things will not remain that way. But in the moment, the valley that he lives in seems just like kind of a lovely little place. And yeah, so this was just a delight, and I very highly recommend this if this sounds like something you would like at all. It was a really lovely book to spend time with. So those are all the books I had read in March. Like I said, my shortest wrap-up of the year so far, and I was reading one more book in March, but I finished it in the first few days of April, so I will wrap that up in my April wrap-up. I'm actually about to do my April wrap-up right now, and then I will be all caught up, finally. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have read any of these books or would like to recommend a book to me or something like that, feel free to comment below. If you want to read some of my written reviews, which I do for every book I read, and I do them pretty promptly after reading the book as well. I post those on Goodreads and Tumblr, which I will link below. I have a Patreon account, so if you feel like supporting me at all, I will link that there as well, and that's always very much appreciated. And the more support I get, the more I feel like I could be able to do with this channel in the future, and it can help me get books in general, which is wonderful and important since this is a book channel. Anyways, I'll see you next time. Bye!